In the heart of busy Chester, its centre mark for the meeting of four highways is the cross, the very spot from which 2,000 years ago the power of Rome ruled a quarter of England for 300 years. In those days, 5,000 armed men were quartered in the city, which was known as Diva, or the City of the Legion. Upon the steps of St. Peter's Church stood the cross itself, until it was pulled down by Cromwell's Roundheads, those ravagers of monarchy and all that stood for it. Opposite to St. Peter's are some good examples of the road, the most remarkable feature of Chester. Formed by running a highway through the first stories of the buildings, these long covered arcades, dating from medieval times, provide one of the strangest shopping centres in England. Visitors come from all over the world to see the roads. They are Chester's special pride, the only buildings of their kind in the world. We are now inside the roads in Bridge Street, which leads down to the River Dee. Passing through the bridge gate, we come to the river itself, the Dee, with its memories of the jolly miller famed in song and story. Gliding upstream through the country outside Chester, we pass on these placid waters some of the loveliest scenery that even Cheshire can show us. Glimpse of Eaton Hall, the residence of the Duke of Westminster. And so back towards Chester. Close to the town are the salmon fisheries, for which the river is famous. Leaving the river, we find ourselves on the city wall. Built of red sandstone and nearly 2 miles long, this medieval barrier is the only complete structure of its kind left in England. On the walls are the famous wishing steps. Here, legend has it, if we are to obtain our wish, we must run up the whole flight of steps and down again, and finally up once more without taking breath. If you doubt the truth of the legend, watch this couple, for they seem to get their wish in record time. On the walls are numerous towers once used as lookout posts. This is King Charles Tower, where Charles I watched his army routed by Cromwell's forces. And here is a 14th century water tower. Over the canal stands the Bridge of Sighs, so called because condemned felons passed across it to the scaffold. Chester is rich in beautiful churches. Here is St. John's, much of which was reduced to ruins in the reign of King Edward VI. From St. John's churchyard, we overlook this fine old house and garden. Local legend says that here, after the Battle of Hastings, King Harold was smuggled away to die in solitude, while his Norman conqueror marched in triumph upon London. Here is another building connected by legend with an English king, Edgar's Cave, believed to be the site of King Edgar's palace in the 10th century. And now we go to the very beginning of Chester's history. Digging beneath a toy shop in the centre of the town, some workmen came across this ancient masonry, part of the very columns which supported the Roman Praetorium 2,000 years ago. These relics are typical of Chester, a city so old that antiquity is taken for granted, and shopkeepers seem to think nothing of supporting their shelves on a Roman column. Here is another discovery of even greater interest. Look closely at these steps, and now by means of a model, see the position of those very steps nearly 2,000 years ago, part of a great Roman amphitheatre, round which 9,000 spectators could be accommodated. A stadium where beast and gladiator fought in mortal combat for the pleasure of the Roman legion. Here the Roman citizen took his seat. Tawny African lions once bounded from this arch, their angry eyes glaring this way and that till they espied the figure of the gladiator entering down this gangway. But while some time must pass before these ancient wonders can be brought to light, though there is ample proof that they lie below in wonderful repair, there is still much above ground for us to admire. Of all Chester's glories, none can rival the cathedral in associations with the city's past. Built upon the site of an old Saxon church, the building has been adorned by the architects of many periods and is today one of England's loveliest cathedrals. Proud as it well may be of its delightful old half-timbered houses, Chester does its best to erect even modern buildings in a style that blends with the ancient. Nearly all the buildings opposite are new or reconstructed, yet at a casual glance they might have stood here for several hundred years. Here are some genuine old buildings in Lower Bridge Street, typical of the mellow Tudor style. Back in the roads once more, we look out on Watergate Street, a thoroughfare filled with interesting old buildings. One of these is God's Providence House, so called because it was the only house in this street to escape a plague which once ravaged the city. This is Bishop Lloyd's house, another ancient building. One of Bishop Lloyd's descendants was Elihu Yale, who founded the famous American university. The pageant of England has passed through Chester. The city, which echoed to the marching feet of Roman legions, still sings the merry melody of the Jolly Miller of Dee. Massive Roman columns lie beneath medieval roads. Homely streets of half-timbered houses nestle beside the stately dignity of a great cathedral. Here, set in a tapestry of red and brown, lies a city richly embroidered with the stories of its people's history.